What's up, people? YuGiOh 101 discussion video. It's another one of these. This is one video that I originally intended to do a while back, but due to the things that were happening at that time, I was doing video game playthroughs and other Yu-Gi-Oh related videos. I never really got around to doing this. So now that I have some time, I'm gonna get this video out there while I still have the chance. In this video, I'm going to be speaking about two words that are very much used in this game, and they're used very loosely. So these two words are overpowered and broken. Two words that are used within Yu-Gi-Oh in particular, which is the game I'm going to be talking about. I mean, they're used in different card games, but, for this video, obviously I'm going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. Also, I know some people may say that, Yu-Gi-Oh is, like these words are not as precise, and there are other words that would be more sensible, like imbalanced or drastically imbalanced. Well, these two words are more familiar with the Yu-Gi-Oh community, so with that being said, I'm gonna use these two words for the video. So yeah. So what makes something broken or overpowered in Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, first off, let me say this. Broken and overpowered are two words that are used within the game of Yu-Gi-Oh that basically describes either a card with an effect or some type of strategy that is either easily abused or it just makes it hard for the opponent to have basically like a fair shot to come back from. You know what I mean? It will be one thing if a build was made to, just to counter what another build was doing, but to be able to put your opponent at such an odds that they virtually have no chance to defend themselves, it's pretty cheap. And this current format just welcomes these two particular words in with open arms. And also, it's two builds in particular, two strategies in particular that I'm going to be speaking on, which are the injectors and the windups. Now, when you look at a word like overpowered, like when I think of overpowered, I think of cards that, well, first off, let me say this. Like, when you look at what makes a card broken or overpowered, you have to look at a few things. The accessibility of it, how often can it be used per turn, how many times will it actually be used per turn, how much of an unfair advantage does it give for the monsters, does its summoning requirement or cost match up with its effect, and for spells and traps, does the payment match the effect, like the payment or the cost, does it match the effect that the card has, or is it just flat out cheap? Now, with that being said, with overpowered, it's more associated with the amount of monsters or cards that, you know, can be used? Like, do they complement each other, and does it create basically this loop that is just ridiculously cheap? Take the Inzectors, for example. Their strategy. The build that I'm going to be speaking on, the strategy that I'm going to be speaking on, is the one that it's basically that net deck that people use on, you know, dueling network. And the whole premise of the strategy is, like, the whole deal is that you can wipe out your opponent's field and just hit them with direct attacks with a bunch of a high level attack monsters, you know, from using various effects. And all you got to do is just find a way to get one Inzector Hornet into the graveyard, and you can do it. And it's ridiculous that you're able to wipe out your opponent's entire field and continuously hit them with direct attacks. This, in certain aspects, is no different than that plant build that used Fishboard Blaster. Or, you know, like, it has been a while ago since I've seen that build in action, so I'm not 100% sure. But with that particular strategy, it was that you can just reuse Fishboard Blaster's effect countless times, because it wasn't a limit on it, and you could just continuously to synchro summon into various, you know, monsters and things like that, and then you summon like Bryanak to the field, and you can just, you know, bounce all the cards that your opponent has back to their hand, and then, you know, reuse Fishboard Blaster to try to synchro summon it into Shooting Quasar Dragon and try to get like an OTK. You know, it was just ridiculous. And this Inzector strategy is just like a different form of that. You know what I mean? And it's pretty cheap, and it's crazy, because to be able to do that in a game, it's just, you know, like, it just really speaks for itself. And, you know, moving on, Broken. Now, when you look at a card Broken, it's just basically just flat out, like, literally no restrictions on how many times the effect can be used. It's pretty much ways to, you know, use like the cheapest strategy you can come up with. And the one thing that separates, you know, Broken cards from overpowered cards, that with overpowered cards, it's a limit to how many times the actual effect of the monster can be used, opposed to, you know, it being Broken. There's no limit to how many times the monster's effect can be used. It's like the Inzectors, they're overpowered because each individual card can be, like, the effect of each Inzector can only be used, you know, like just once per turn. But it's the amount of Inzectors that, you know, has that type of effect, that, like, it just complements each other, and it creates this cycle. You know, it's pretty overpowered. And then you just continuously add Inzectors to your hand, and then you can continuously special summon injectors, and you can use those effects over and over again to either to wipe out your opponent's field, and special summon a bunch of monsters with high attack, and you know it's just flat out ridiculous. But with broken cards, it puts your opponent at such a cheap odd odds. It basically is like legal cheating. Like that's the only way that I can actually describe it. It's legal cheating. When you look at a word like broken, one strategy comes to mind, and it's this wind-up loop. And what the wind-up loop does is that the whole purpose of it is that you get to special summon wind-up rat, wind-up Zen Mighty, and use like wind-up magician and like wind-up shark. Like use those four, and then you summon like wind-up hunter to just continuously reuse its effect. Like the whole point of that strategy is to reuse wind-up hunter's effect, which is that you contribute one wind-up monster, and you can pick one random card in your opponent's hand, and they would have to discard it to the graveyard. And you would do this so much, like in the loop, it worked so well that you can just continuously special summon monsters for like wind up hunter to use, that you can just empty out your opponent's hand in like your first turn, which is ridiculous. It's really not like no limit on it, and the fact that they would have something like this in the game, like if it wasn't obvious before, if you were one of those people that was such a diehard Yu-Gi-Oh fan, and like you just didn't want to believe that Konami could do no wrong, like I said, if it wasn't obvious before, or if you was in denial, it's obvious now. Konami is basically trying to get a cheap cash in this current format. And I don't know if it's because they need the money or whatever. Which I seriously doubt they need the money. I believe that it's more so that they're just greedy. But I would hope people wouldn't be so idiotic as to buy into this, but that's kind of far-fetched when you think about it, because the reality of it is people are going to buy into it. They figure, hey, I got 6 months to play with it, so that must mean that, hey, I might as well get all the play that I can get out of it, But you got to think about, like, things such as future usage. If there is a particular build or a particular monster out that gives such an unfair advantage to its user that the opponent can't do anything about it, eventually something is going to happen to that card. It's inevitable. It happened with Fishboard Blaster, it happened with Crush Card Virus, and many other cards. As the game evolved, like they would had to get rid of certain cards, like they have to take them out the game. And, people just know that, hey, like these cards aren't going to last long, so it really wouldn't make any sense for me to buy this if I know like 6 months down the line, something is going to happen to this. And I basically won't be able to get my money's worth. Like I won't be able to play with it. And now I'm trying to sell it on eBay or whatever, and trying to pawn it off on somebody else, trying to get my money back, or at least some amount of my money back that I used to buy this card. Like it was crazy. At one point, tour guy from the underworld was up to like what, like $300. I mean, like, of course, like the price has dropped on it, but damn, that's quite a lot for a damn card. But hey, like, look at all those people that bought like Dust Trap Shoot. That card was far too good, just early in the game. You know what I mean? And people seem to get that card early in the game a lot. So, but what happened to it? It ended up getting banned, and then it got a sequel card called Authority of the Sword, I believe that's what it's called, or the Command of the Sword, or something like that. That was basically the effect that Dust Trap Shoot should have had to begin with. But yeah, this video is going to be open for discussion. Like, I'm rambling and just talking back and forth about, how I feel, and I'm not really hitting all the points that I want to hit. So this video is going to be open for discussion. Like, what do you think about the words overpowered and broken in this game? Like, what do you think about them? Do you think the words are very much like abused in the game, or like, do you think that like people complain too much when it comes to certain builds, or what? So that being said, I'm gonna end this video here. Another thing, like, I was on Duel Network, I was watching this duel, and I was in the chat box, and some guy, like, he made like this statement, like these words are being used so much that, if everything was so broken or overpowered, then wouldn't that make the game balanced? Like, I know he was just like trolling and just playing around, but he pretty much had a point. The words, like, they do get thrown around a lot. And it's just so easy to associate anything with broken or overpowered now that it's like the words has lost its, well, like the way they're being used, they seem to have lost their meaning and their differences, like, between the two words. But whatever. Broken or overpowered, for me, overpowered just means that it's a certain amount of cards that makes it, too good, or makes the strategy too good. For broken, there's no limit on how many times an effect can be used, and it puts you at such an advantage that your opponent can't even, like, recover from it. But that's what I think of the two words. But like I said, the video is open for discussion. You guys talk about it in the comments, and see you guys for the next Yu-Gi-Oh 101 video. And I need to give me some water because my throat is killing me. I don't really talk this much, but yeah, see you guys next time. Peace. Batman. Batman with Green Lantern powers.